Hello, good evening, and thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. I'm Blake Burman. So here's where we start. The presidential address. Why President Trump will soon speak to the nation from the Oval Office.
He's going to talk a lot about the accomplishments over the past 11 months, all that he's done to bring our country back to greatness.
But why is his economy right now seeing job losses? Peter Navarro, one of the president's top advisors, with us live in moments. Plus, the vision for Venezuela. Is the administration's goal to blow up drug boats or topple a dictator? Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio briefing lawmakers today. Even some Republicans, though, now have some big questions. We're speaking live with one leader who was inside that room. At this hour as well, begging for help. Police in Rhode Island just releasing a new video timeline and calling on the public to help track down the killer of 2 Brown University students. That's just some of the video just released. And sounding off. The president's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, in her own words, telling Vanity Fair that Trump, as she says, has a, quote, alcoholic's personality. So what does she mean by that? And how the president is responding tonight. But first tonight, getting ready for prime time. The president himself revealing that he will give an Oval Office address tomorrow evening, a year-end speech to tell the American public what he views as accomplishments in year 1 of term 2. His vice president giving part of that pitch out on the road today in Pennsylvania. J.D. Vance telling NewsNation that he does not believe the economy is a political liability.
We got to stay with it. We got to keep on working on bringing good jobs and money back into the United States of America.
But today, new numbers on the jobs front raising real questions for the White House. Peter Navarro, top advisor to the president, answering those in a moment. But first tonight to our Kelly Meyer live over at 1600. Big speech tomorrow night. Hello, Kelly.
Yeah, Blake, and we just found out about that in the last few hours from the president himself on True Social. He is set to address the nation tomorrow night right here from the White House. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, telling us earlier today that it will be a recap of what she calls the accomplishments over the last year and what the president plans to do in the year ahead and really over the next 3 years, she says. It comes as the president is shaping his message for the year ahead, which seems to be focusing a lot around the economy as we head into the midterms. His vice president hitting the trail in Pennsylvania today, touting that message. Take a listen.
I'm a little surprised by when the Democrats talk all the time about affordability. Democrats say, you know, things aren't affordable. This isn't affordable. This has gotten more expensive. And you know what? They're right, and it was because of them. It ain't that hard.
So this comes as just 31% of Americans approve of the president's handling of the economy, 67% disapprove. And with falling approval numbers, tomorrow night's speech is part of the overall affordability blitz. Blake.
All right, our Kelly Meyer live tonight over at 1600. Kelly, thank you. So tonight, another warning sign about jobs in America. The Labor Department today reporting that the economy added 64,000 jobs in November. And with it, the unemployment rate ticked upwards to 4.6%. That right there is a 4-year high. We also got the October figure as well. As you might know, it was delayed from the government shutdown. It showed that we lost 105,000 jobs in October. Now, much of that had to do with federal workers who took buyouts. They came off the payrolls. Of course, add in the historic shutdown, and you get that number right there. But I want to show you part of the bigger picture tonight, because look at the last 6 months here. These are the last 6 months, okay, from November, dating all the way back. The government says that we have lost jobs in half of those months. June, August, on top of what I just showed you there in October. 17,000 combined, that's it, when you add all of this up over the last 6 months. Now, job losses spread across the economy. More than 200,000 in government since last May. We know what the president and the administration has been trying to do on that front, right? But look at manufacturing, professional and business services as well, transportation and warehousing. You see 67,000, 76,000, 50,000 job losses in those industries. The healthcare sector, this is where you're getting job gains, right? Healthcare, 302,000 added. Leisure and hospitality, another 100,000 added, and then add construction on top of that. In all, government data shows, though, once you add all this up, There are now 1 million people more unemployed than there were in January of this year, when President Trump, of course, took office. However, workers are making 3.5% more this year compared to last year, and that does track slightly ahead of inflation. With us now, Peter Navarro, White House senior advisor on trade and manufacturing, back with us here on the Hill. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you.
That's part of the picture there. Obviously, when you talk about the economy and jobs, it's big, it's complicated. But the first question, Peter, why are we seeing job losses? It's happened 3 out of the last 6 months.
Well, certainly with the government, that's by design. We're trying to make government lean. If you go back to the Clinton-Gore years, that's exactly what they did when they got in. It's not a partisan thing. It's government gets too big because I'm looking at the Capitol right there through your beautiful window here. It's like they spend too much money and things get out of control. So a lot of that unemployment, lost jobs was government workers taking the buyouts and going to the sidelines.
But which I showed in October.
Yeah.
But then there was also June, there's also August, ADP, the private numbers have been negative 4 out of the last 6 months. You know this. And so I'm trying to get a sense, set government aside, why is this happening?
Well, let's look at the overall composition of the labor force when President Trump took office. We were basically running an employment factory for illegal aliens. Literally every job we were creating was going to illegal aliens. Now, they're leaving in record numbers. They're not moving fast enough because they're still holding jobs of citizens here, but that's going to be a healthy trend. To the extent that we're moving jobs out of government into the private sector, that's also a very healthy trend because private sector jobs are much more productive and they add to the growth of the economy. So, I mean, if you look at today's report, I think it was a good report in the sense that we were above estimates. We are used to months and years of creating a couple 100,000 jobs a month, right?
Yeah.
But
the 64 is a lot lower.
No, but you have to adjust your thinking on that because we were bringing in 20 million new people into the workforce through illegal aliens. So that became the norm. In order to be steady state, in order to hold the unemployment rate at a reasonable level, we don't have to have that kind of growth. It's more like what we had today in the 60 or 70 or 80,000s.
So how do you explain manufacturing then? Because when you and I spoke at the Hill Nation Summit earlier this summer, you said, you know, it's going to take time. And I'm looking at manufacturing, 67,000 lost manufacturing jobs.
This one troubles me because I'm the senior counsel for trade and manufacturing.
Right.
But here's the good news. The problem is that in order to create factories, which is not what the Biden administration does, it first takes investment, and then the investment takes construction. And that's like a 3-year gestation period. So what we see as trillions of dollars are coming into our economy now in new investment, what we see is there's going to be a boom first in construction, and then over time, as the factories are actually, you can turn the things on, we're going to see manufacturing finally revive. But you have to understand, Blake, that our manufacturing sector has been under sustained attack for 20 years, not just by China, but by much of the rest of the world. And we've lost our, not just the factories that make the stuff, but all the supply chains and all the things that go around it. We're in the process of building it, but it's like the old aircraft carrier analogy. It takes time to turn that ship around. So what you're going to see still for some months before manufacturing takes off. But look, the big, beautiful bill, people have not learned to appreciate just how big and beautiful that is with respect to job creation. Because the best thing in that is the fact that you get 100% depreciation on new factories built.
How long can you wait, though? Right, because we've been seeing this for months, and I hear you talking about.
So let's talk about the problem that I've been talking about for a couple of years now. The Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the biggest thing holding us down and has been for several years now by holding interest rates way above where they should. I mean, after all, you saw what the report said today, and it's like you could see that things were going down a little bit, and so, but the Fed wasn't acting. So what we need to do is get Fed policy aligned with the growth agenda, and it's not. They're still 100, 150 basis points away, Blake, from where they should be. And that's keeping everybody from selling their homes. It's called the lock-in effect, and that's suppressing construction, that's suppressing supply in housing construction. I mean, but the good news is the Trump administration has put everything in place like we're a coiled spring that's going to go really fast. Now, we know that people are in pain, which is the inflation part of that thing. And I'm the last person who's going to tell somebody who's in pain that they're not in pain. That's not what this is about. But we have to understand how we got there, first of all. And that was the Democrat policies. We have to understand that it takes time to get inflation down and more robust growth up, and that we are doing everything possible. And so being here talking with you, explaining what we're doing, why the president is going to be talking tomorrow night, is the American people are fair people, and they're sophisticated and understanding. And what we have to do is message to them exactly what we're doing, and we're in this together regardless of political party.
Let me leave you with this. Susie Wiles, the chief of staff today, there was a big write-up in Vanity Fair, and we'll be talking about it throughout the show. One of the things that she mentioned was about tariffs, Peter, and she said, it's been more painful, I'm quoting here, it's been more painful than I expected. Given that inflation's gone up since liberation.
Hang on there, because Susie Wiles has rejected virtually everything about.
I mean, it's her quote, though.
No, it's not her quote. It's the quote that Vanity Fair put in there. That thing, it's Vanity Hit. It's not Vanity Fair. Okay, that thing. I mean, I thought
she's in quotes. I thought.
They say that she said that. That doesn't mean she said that, Blake. I'm telling you, you look at that article, I thought the media was unfair to Donald Trump in the first term. I think it's even worse this time around. I have never seen a two-part article or even a one-part article that is so just a drumbeat of fear over fact as that Vanity Fair piece. That is a hit piece. And I know you guys are going to love talking about it. It's like, but there's other things going on in the world that really should be talking about. That's a hit piece, and there's nothing in it that has any credibility, full stop.
All right.
Nothing.
We got to leave it there. Peter Navarro, trade advisor, manufacturing advisor. Nice
to see you always, Blake.
Appreciate it. All right, still to come. Other side here on the Hill. Endgame interrogation. Republicans joining Democrats saying they have more questions than answers on the administration's plans for Venezuela. After Secretaries Rubio and Hegseth brief lawmakers. We're speaking to one live, other side of the break. Plus, Ford, did you hear what they said? Making a U-turn, slamming the brakes on electric vehicles. And just a short time ago, prosecutors announcing plans to charge the son of the legendary Hollywood director Rob Reiner with the brutal murder of his parents. The news continues, other side of the break, 4 minutes away. I'll see you then.
But in keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course, we're not going to release a top-secret, full, unedited video of that to the general public. Hask and Sask and appropriate committees will see it, but not the general public.
The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, saying today that he will not release the video of an airstrike that killed survivors of the alleged drug boat strike on September 2nd, despite President Trump saying recently they would. Secretary Hegseth, along with the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, spent the morning up on Capitol Hill briefing lawmakers behind closed doors on the Trump administration's strikes against alleged narco-terrorists. The briefing coming just hours after U.S. Southern Command posted video of more attacks, 3 of them believed to have been on boats that were smuggling drugs in the eastern Pacific Ocean. The military says 8 people on board were killed. Senator Ron Johnson, who was in that briefing today with the secretaries, joins us in a moment. But first, our Joe Khalil, live on Capitol Hill. Joe?
Hey, Blake, so several members of Congress, House and Senate, have been asking for more information to be more in the know on what's been going on with these strikes. Today, at this point now, every single senator, every single House member has at the very least had an opportunity to hear directly from Secretaries Hegseth and Rubio and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Stan Kane. They had those briefings today. Still, there were several senators and House members that came out unsatisfied with what they heard. They still had questions. I heard a lot of complaints about what is the end goal with these strikes, that those types of questions were not answered in that briefing. Still, there were many others, many Trump allies here on Capitol Hill who did feel satisfied. They felt that the intelligence was good. The legal grounding now for these strikes, the basis for them, they say is solid coming out of that briefing. But I want you to hear something from both sides of the aisle. You're going to hear from a Democrat, Jason Crow, and a Republican Senator, Eric Schmidt, about one other key question, and that is whether Congress needs to be more involved in authorizing strikes if they continue and if there are even land strikes in Venezuela. Take a listen to both of them.
The language that they're using, the terminology is wartime counterterrorism terminology.
The president has declared a number of cartels as terrorist organizations, and blowing them out of the water will continue.
Now, Blake, obviously they didn't see that video of that double tap strike back in early September, but several members of the Armed Services Committees will see that tomorrow.
Joe Kay, live for us tonight up in the Capitol hallways. Joe, thank you. With us now, Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, sits on the Homeland Security Committee, and as I mentioned, briefed by the Secretary. Senator, thanks for being back with us. Always nice to see you. Senator Lindsey Graham, your colleague, said that it was confusing and that he did not get an answer on what the White House plan is. Were you confused? Do you know what the plan is?
I think it's pretty clear. We want to try and stop the drug flow of these deadly narcotics into our country, and it's working. When I was Chairman of Homeland Security, I went down to Southern Command, and we were interdicting maybe 10% of the drug flow. Interdiction doesn't work. I mean, that's just, in manufacturing, that's called scrap. It's the cost of doing business. You start blowing these boats out of the water, and there are fewer boats, a lot fewer boats. So again, this is trying to protect America and Americans from the narco-terrorists that really, unfortunately, are running Venezuela today. But I think it's pretty crystal clear. And it's a strategy based on exquisite intelligence. There's multiple checklists that multiple people are looking at. They're being incredibly careful to make sure there's no innocence involved here. These people are guilty. They are drug traffickers. They deserve what they get because they know exactly the risk they're taking.
Is it that, Senator, or is it this? As I mentioned, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff in Vanity Fair. Trump, quote, wants to keep on blowing boats up until Nicolas Maduro, cries uncle, and people way smarter than me say that he will. That was the chief of staff in Vanity Fair. So is this about boats, or is this about getting Maduro out of power?
Well, I think this is about dramatically reducing drug trafficking. But I think the administration also has the goal of getting rid of the illegitimate narco-terrorist regime that's currently destroying Venezuela. That would be a good thing. And they're trying to put pressure, for example, seizing the one oil boat, certainly deterring other boats from even trying to dock, and trying to do without using American ground troops and going to war. I mean, I wish Maduro would take the hint and leave while he still can.
Take the hint. The USS Gerald R. Ford, Senator, has been there for 30 days now. It's the largest strike group in the world. So you say take the hint. I read what Susie Wiles said on the record. You were just briefed. What comes next? I can't imagine we're just going to keep the Gerald R. Ford sitting there for weeks into months.
Well, again, if you starve the Maduro regime of their only source of revenue, basically oil, they can't pay off their protectors in Cuba. They can't provide oil in payment to some of these other rogue regimes. That's going to continue to apply pressure. I'd rather continue the pressure as opposed to engage in military action. So I believe that's what the strategy is. As I said, I hope Maduro takes the hint.
Do you believe that we're going to, based on what you heard in the room today, do you believe that the U.S. will seize more oil tankers?
I think it's entirely possible. I don't believe that was part of the briefing. I was only there for the first half hour during the briefing. I didn't stay for the Q&A.
Senator Ron Johnson, we'll leave it there. Inside the room, lots of questions still on Venezuela. Thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. Catch you soon. Still much more ahead. Other side of the break, moments ago, investigators giving an update on the search for a killer in Rhode Island. This video, brand new video and pictures. What police and the FBI are saying at this hour. Plus, President Trump has a, quote, alcoholic's personality, end quote. Just one of the many candid things the president's chief of staff told a reporter in a brand new series of interviews. What else she revealed and what one former chief of staff will tell us on this show tonight. 6:30 here on the East Coast, 3:30 out in California tonight as Nick Reiner will be charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the stabbing deaths of his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner. Reiner was scheduled to make his first court appearance today, but was a no-show. His attorney saying he hasn't been medically cleared for a courtroom.
Every single inmate goes through a medical clearance before they can be transported to court. Every one of them. Okay. And that's a process. It's just a procedural issue. And he has not yet been medically cleared.
Our Brian Enton live in Los Angeles tonight with the very latest. Brian, that's a pretty big procedural issue.
Yeah, that was actually famed attorney Alan Jackson, who we have now learned is representing Nick Reiner. You might remember him. He was just Karen Reed's attorney in Massachusetts. And he was there, too, for the hearing. I mean, we were all there this morning, downtown Los Angeles, and then Nick Reiner didn't show up, and they said he had to be medically cleared. Remember, just yesterday, there were reports that he was on suicide watch, so it's hard to tell what's going on behind the scenes, but we're told he may actually be in court tomorrow now. He's facing 2 first-degree murder charges with special circumstances. The district attorney had a press conference a couple of hours ago to explain the charges. Listen to what he said.
One of these special allegations is that the murder was committed with a deadly weapon or a knife. As to where and how the weapon was located or will be located, that will actually be evidence we'll present in court.
And sources have told us, Blake, and I mean, it's hard to talk about because it's just so sad, but that both Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, had their throats cut. This was a stabbing and that was the way that they died. And one last thing I wanted to tell you, there's another part of this investigation we learned about. There's a hotel in Santa Monica, Pierside Hotel, and apparently the son went there sometime after the murders, got a room there for the night, and they've now found blood inside that hotel room. So that is also now part of the investigation. Blake?
Just awful out there in California. Brian Enton live with us this evening. Brian, thank you. Investigators on the East Coast now still begging for help in Rhode Island as they search for the suspect in the deaths of 2 Brown University students. Within the last hour here, the FBI laying out a new video timeline. You see some of it here of the suspect's movements that day in hopes that the public can lend a hand in cracking this case. Our Jessica Cartalia is in Providence, Rhode Island tonight. Jessica, I got to tell you, this video here, it zooms in a little bit more. It's a little bit clearer and potentially giving authorities there a little bit more hope.
Right. A little bit of hope. There's a silver lining, but not much, Blake. If you look, I mean, you think about all of the cameras that they have here on campus. The video is so grainy. They're hoping that someone can recognize that man by his gait. They say he walks a little bit like a duck. They did address during that press conference last hour that there is a lack of video during the shooting and immediately after. And they're attributing that to the fact that this engineering building behind me has a newer part and an older part, and they don't have surveillance cameras everywhere. Where I'm standing right now, we see 2 cameras. So again, it's still unclear why there is such a lack of video. We know that there are as many as 800 cameras here on campus. That averages out to about 1 camera per 18 people. So you're talking about faculty and students who are constantly being monitored. But according to the Attorney General, that new and older part of the engineering building is what really is the hangup. We know that that person of interest, however, was in that neighborhood that you're seeing right there on your screen Saturday morning before the shooting here Saturday afternoon. Here's the police chief.
We actually learned that this individual was in that neighborhood at around 10:30 in the morning. We also know in this profession that many criminals will case out an area weeks and days prior. And so it's important for us to ensure that we can have you look at that and help us.
The FBI is hopeful that someone will recognize this person. They're even offering a $50,000 reward for information that could eventually lead to an arrest and a conviction. Investigators are also working to reconstruct that timeline of that individual's movements before and after the attack. They are significantly enhancing that video. But again, Blake, as you see, it's still very difficult to see. They are also looking at security here as they're getting an increase in the number of SWAT calls and false alarms. Take a listen.
Cartalia live tonight there in Rhode Island. Jessica, thank you. Meantime, one of America's top automakers now making a U-turn. Ford announcing it's now rolling back its EV push and at a price. The automaker taking a $20 billion hit, pausing production of the electric F-150 trucks, scrapping other large EVs, and saying it will pivot to hybrid vehicles due to lower demand and higher costs.
We evaluated the market and we made the call. We're following customers to where the market is, not where people thought it was going to be, but where it is today.
But California says don't pull the plug. That state's attorney general and 15 others announcing today they are suing President Trump for stopping 2 grant programs, once intended to build out EV infrastructure. With us now, Greg Stanton. He's a Democrat from the great state of Arizona, also a member of the Transportation Committee. Congressman, thanks for being in tonight.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it. Great to see you as always. There was this push, EV, for more than a decade. A lot of it from Democrats and green energy, aligned folks. Is it time to rethink this, given what we just heard from Ford saying, well, wait a minute, we gotta pivot now?
No, just the opposite.
Why?
First off, Elon Musk is no Democrat. I mean, support for EV was really across the board, and Congress voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the largest investment in green and clean energy, including supporting the EV industry in American history. And Trump comes on board and, for political reasons, I guess, decides to move us in the opposite direction. We are in a battle with China on so many key industries, including the EV industry. And by eliminating the programs on the Inflation Reduction Act, it's resulted in things like Ford losing these jobs. Because remember, when they make this decision, they're choosing to lose $20 billion, including new factories, to support the EV industry.
But I just heard Jim Farley, the head of Ford, say customers have spoken and we listen to the customers. I mean, I'm looking at 74,000 new units sold last month. Of course, we know the government subsidies ended at the end of September. That led to a 49% decrease in sales month over month, 30% decrease from over the past year. Isn't the customer speaking here?
Somewhat, but as you know, we had made a decision in Congress to support this industry through tax credits to make the price of the EV vehicles a little more affordable. And EV sales were going through the roof. They were going very, very well. And now with Trump in there, it's gone back and forth, back and forth. It's chaos in the industry. So probably they got exasperated and said no to that. Look, we need to support green and clean energy, including the electric vehicle industry. This is important for the United States to be a leader in this. We can't unilaterally disarm, if you will, let China control this marketplace across the globe, and we need all of our major players. Now, we can't, I mean, if Ford can make the business decision, right. I'm a capitalist, they can make whatever business decision. We had made a policy decision to support the industry, and that was taken away by the Trump administration.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're essentially saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that we need to prop the industry up a little bit, because that's what government subsidies are in a sense. And I'm looking at top reasons why Americans won't buy an EV: too expensive, range, charging time, and they prefer gas. And I think that's why Ford, in a sense, is going back to hybrid.
Well, let me make that point. The lawsuit that you described,
your state's involved.
Arizona's involved. I'm very proud of our Attorney General for being part of this lawsuit, was to reinsure that we have the EV infrastructure program in place. That range issue is a very important issue. We need to invest in EV infrastructure so EV potential car owners have confidence that they can take longer drives with these EV vehicles. Should the United States have industrial policy? Should we support the semiconductor industry? We did through the Chips and Science Act, very, very successful. And we're in competition, a global competition with China. Should we support this industry? Otherwise, we could get swamped by China in this critical industry. I don't want that to happen to our country.
Greg Stanton is a Democrat on the Transportation Committee with us tonight here on the Hill.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. All right.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Still to come. President Trump's top aide, the chief of staff, goes off script, maybe, I don't know, and on the record, that we know. What the president's chief of staff had to say about all the president's men and why the White House is defending her now. Mick Mulvaney, one of 5 chief of staffs to work for Trump. Other side. A wide-ranging profile of the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles released by Vanity Fair out today. Wiles offering her blunt assessment of the president's inner circle and some of the biggest issues that are facing the White House. The piece includes Wiles' assessment of the president himself, saying that he has a, quote, alcoholic's personality, end quote. She says, I'm a little bit of an expert in big personalities and that Trump operates with the view that there's nothing he can't do, nothing, zero, nothing, even though he famously, as we know, doesn't drink. Wiles pushing back, calling it a disingenuously framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in history. Trump and the White House standing behind Wiles today. Trump even saying he agrees with Wiles in the interview, quote, I don't drink alcohol, so everybody knows that. But I've often said that if I did, I'd have a very good chance of being an alcoholic. I've said that many times about myself. It's a very possessive personality. Full panel here with me now to discuss. Julia Manchester, White House reporter for The Hill. Naveen Nayak is a Democratic strategist, and Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation contributor, and one of only 5 people to have ever been a chief of staff for Donald Trump. You're still at 5.
Still at 5.
Let me start with you. Why did Susie Wiles do this? And you think she broke rule number 1. What do you mean by that?
Rule number 1 is make the boss look good. And I think this breaks that rule. I don't know why she did it. The best explanation I think I've heard is that Trump probably encouraged her to do it. Trump believes that if you give the media good access, they'll always write good stories about you, even though it's been proven time and time again that doesn't make a difference in this administration. It was always going to be a hit piece. Vanity Fair is one of the biggest anti-Trump outlets in the country, so I'm not really sure why this happened, why they did it with that, and why they expected anything different. That said, her job is absolutely not at risk. 100% no. She's doing a great job. Everybody seems to like her. There's nobody else sort of angling for the job in the building, trying to stab her in the back. She's not going to lose her job over this. She made a mistake. She'll get over it.
Here's what Peter Navarro said, senior advisor to the president, moments ago. Watch. He said to me, sometimes I am let me pull it up here. He basically pushed back Mick on the concept that these quotes weren't real.
Well, we'll find out, because Vanity Fair, the guy who did the interview, Chris Whipple, says he's got tapes of the whole thing, which again stuns me. There's 11 on-the-record, tape-recorded interviews. I don't know why you would ever possibly do that, but we'll know at some point. Here's the thing I'm worried about. This is what they should be planning for in the Oval Office tonight. This is not the end of this. Okay, this town is built on the drip, drip, drip of bad news, and I'd be stunned if we don't hear something else in the next week or two coming out of these same series of interviews. This may not go away for a long time.
Naveen, on Russia, Wiles on Putin. Donald Trump thinks he wants the whole country. If that is indeed what President Trump thinks, and again, these are Wiles on the record, what does that say about something that President Biden couldn't do, which was end the war, and something that's facing President Trump tonight?
Sorry, ask me again, because I thought the thing that was revealing was I thought in a lot of these instances, she was sort of pulling back the curtain, and there's a lot of candor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Donald Trump thinks Putin wants the whole country.
Yeah.
Which goes different to what we've heard in the recent days, which is we're close to a peace plan.
Yeah, except that I think we've all known that Putin wanted the whole country from the start, and I think there was a little bit of a stun for him that they didn't take it 3 years ago now, right? I think the 4th anniversary is coming up in February. So I think that part doesn't surprise me. I think there's no question Donald Trump's ability to sort of negotiate with some of these strongmen has, brought people to the table in a way that others have.
The issue, though, is, Naveen, is that now there's daylight between what the chief of staff has said and what the president has said. You can't have that.
Julia Wiles on deportations. I will concede that we got to look harder at our process for deportation, end quote.
Yeah, I mean, that's notable, but I would kind of agree with Naveen. I think some of the more newsworthy quotes, obviously the referring to Trump acting like an alcoholic, saying J.D. Vance has been a conspiracy theorist over the past 10 years, talking about how Bondi, quote unquote, whiffed the Epstein files. I mean, I think that's really where most of the juice is here. And just looking at this entire interview, I was shocked at how candid she was, because Susie Wiles is someone who seems to operate more from a behind-the-scenes perspective. She doesn't like to necessarily be in the limelight. She gave an interview last week talking about the 2026 campaign strategy. It was very technical. So looking at this interview with a publication that is, as Mick says, notorious for not exactly being flattering towards President Trump was surprising.
Here was J.D. Vance earlier today to Julia's point on the conversation of conspiracy theories. He said, sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true. Susie and I have joked about that for a long time. What are you guys going to do with this? What are Democrats going to do with this article as a whole?
I don't know. I mean, listen, the news cycle these days, I just feel like it's hard to picture anything here. And to be honest, you know, I think what's going to carry a lot more weight is Trump's Reiner comments, and that ongoing conversation will get way more attention.
And what he says tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I do think generally that this has been a pretty buttoned-up White House. And to Julie's point, Susie Wiles, I think, has operated very quietly, gotten very little attention, which I think is the way you're supposed to.
It is. It's supposed to be buttoned up. She's done a great job. That's why I don't understand why this happened.
Well, and I think one thing that's important to point out, she's not denying these quotes. She's saying there's context missing, but she's not denying that this was said. So I don't know. We'll see if the tapes of the interview are released, but I think that's important.
I think the other thing that's revealing is how confident Trump seems. The fact that he didn't throw her under the bus, that there was no semblance. I think that there's an element of him not feeling like everyone in the White House has.
Which makes me think he asked her to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Really? What do you mean by that?
Trump does believe that if you give media people access to you, they will write good things about you. He's always was why he talked to Bob Woodward as much as he did in the first term. And I can hear him saying, no, Susie, you do this. You go do this. They'll write good stuff about you if you give them access. And when they don't, and they never were going to, he's sort of looking at, well, I'm not going to throw her under the bus because I asked her to do it.
Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff for 330 days. You know what your number is?
Whatever 15 months is, so.
454.
There we go.
For Mick Mulvaney, just shy of John Kelly. How about that? Mick brought up tomorrow night, Julia, there is the big address from the president in the Oval Office, 9 o'clock Eastern. Do we have Peter Navarro's soundbite, what he said to me today? Let me roll that.
In order to create factories, which is not what the Biden administration does, it first takes investment. And then the investment takes construction. And that's like a 3-year gestation period.
That was a reaction to the latest jobs report, in which we learned today only 64,000 jobs created in November. Another month with negative job growth. And I asked Navarro about manufacturing because there was job loss again. That part of the response there, and it makes me wonder how the administration is going to take on the economy.
Well, negative job growth and also continuing to be, I guess, dogged by this issue of inflation, affordability. President Trump has 2 opportunities this week to address this. Tomorrow night during this national televised address at 9:30 or 9 o'clock, and then also on Friday when he goes to battleground North Carolina and talks about, presumably, the economy. He started to do this. Vance did it today in Pennsylvania. Now they're going to another battleground state.
Listen, I've become more convinced since we last chatted and he went to Pennsylvania that the president's really doomed here, because you have to be able to acknowledge the economy is not working. And that would have to be his economy that is not working. And at his core, Donald Trump does not want to admit that something he's in charge of is not going well. He just cannot do it. He won't acknowledge it. And I think he's missing the American people.
Put on the Chief of Staff hat, you would tell him what?
I have no idea what he's going to say tomorrow, but I know what's happening, which is he is now in the position where he believes that he's the best messenger for his product. And he is, okay? And he's looking around the room going, no one else is selling my stuff. I'm going to go out and do it myself. If you want something done right, you go do it yourself. So I expect this to be a sales pitch tomorrow for why things are great in the country.
Mick, Naveen, Julia, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Still to come. Merriam-Webster unveils its word of the year. So how did a word first used in the 1700s get so popular? We'll define it next. All right, if you're just getting home, trying to catch up on today's top stories, here's some Hill headlines before we end tonight. The House GOP will not allow amendment vote to extend Obamacare subsidies. Big deal for a lot of folks. Some moderate Republicans had been pushing for an extension to the subsidies as part of the Republicans' bill on health care. That included New York Congressman Mike Lawler.
What you have is a situation where, frankly, neither side's leadership wants this to pass. The Democrats want to use this as an issue in the election, and seemingly the Republican leadership is going to allow them to do it. And it's idiotic.
It's all happening as Congress races for a health care fix. Subsidies set to expire at the end of this year, 2 more weeks. Also, White House ballroom expected to be completed by 2028. The estimated completion date happening just before President Trump leaves office. And Merriam-Webster's word of the year for 2025 is that right there, slop. And here's why. It's the word used to describe cheaply made, obviously fake AI-generated videos that are swarming social media feeds. Talking cats, absurd videos, fake news that look real, and AI-generated books are all examples from Merriam-Webster. The company says that when it comes to creative pursuits, maybe AI isn't all that super intelligent just yet. To check out those stories and more, all you have to do, head on over to thehill.com. By the way, scan the QR code I write for the newsletter in the morning every day. Elizabeth Vargas coming up just seconds away here on News Nation. She's talking to the retired FBI agent Jim Fitzgerald, who helped capture the Unabomber. There are new developments tonight in Rhode Island, and Elizabeth is on top of it all. I thank you so much for watching us tonight here on The Hill. I'm Blake Burman. I'll see you back tomorrow. Have a good one.